Damn, I really held out on this game. So it's late December, the Star Wars hype and discourse is surrounding me on all angles, and I have some money laying around. Having nothing better to spend it on, I decide to finally purchase a game that's been nagging me for quite a while. Star Wars Battlefront II. No, not the classic Battlefront II that I put literally hundreds of hours into, but the 2017 Battlefront II. Both my strong disappointment from the first EA Battlefront and the strong negative feedback for this game at launch kept me from spending a cent on it. But now that the waters have cleared a bit, so to speak, I've decided to lay down my money and see what this game is all about. Are the problems fixed? Is it even a good game to begin with? Welcome to Beating the Backlog, and today we're looking at Star Wars Battlefront II, the 2017 release of course, which I played on my Xbox One. Let's get started.
Eliminate the rebels and return to the Corvus. The Emperor's plan must not fail.
Before I actually talk about the story, I'll briefly describe the order that I tackled the modes in this game. I started out playing the arcade battle scenarios to get used to the controls and try out all the different classes, heroes, villains, etc., and I believe that this was the best move at the end of the day. Next I tackled the campaign, both the base story and the free DLC missions, and after that I tried out a couple of the multiplayer modes. As y'all know, I'm not really a multiplayer kind of guy, so I didn't play too much of that, but we'll get to that later. Without spoiling too much, the campaign was actually surprisingly decent. I heard a lot of negative things about it before I even bought the game, but after playing it, I really don't have anything bad to say about it. I mean, sure, it could have been better. It wasn't like Halo, Call of Duty level shooter campaign, knock your socks off, anything like that. But I mean, overall, I had a pretty decent experience, and honestly, it's really nice that this game even came with a campaign to begin with. It really just felt like playing a Star Wars spin-off movie with how you had these new characters building up, and these old characters are incorporated as well. The themes explored were interesting, but weren't gone into too much depth. The characters didn't develop too much, but it got the job done at the end of the day for a shooter campaign. The one thing I didn't like was the stealth portions. Like, fuck this. No, seriously, this game did not need any of that shit. I mean, I just want to go gung-ho on all these assholes. I don't want to sneak, but it just really, really wants you to sneak, and it's fucking annoying. But overall, if you're looking for a decent shooter campaign to play through, and you're a Star Wars fan, I mean, this campaign might do you some good. Okay, I shouldn't really need to describe the general gameplay too much because it's about the exact same as the first EA Battlefront, and like every other shooter game that has ever existed. You can play as various soldier classes. You all have a specific type of gun and specific abilities that can be modified or changed via star cards. And for the campaign, you get these star cards as you progress. For multiplayer, you get them by leveling up and spending skill points for the specific class. Offline or other single-player modes give you all the star cards by default. As you can tell, this aspect of the game, with all these star cards, you gotta play a lot and grind quite a bit, so if you really want to get serious about this, you're going to set aside a lot of time to play this game. You can also play as various heroes and villains from this saga. Me personally, I didn't get much time in as these characters, but it's always cool to fight alongside them, or, just actually play as them. They all have unique abilities that require a certain playstyle in order to succeed, and your understanding of the mechanics of each hero needs to be quite advanced to survive. You can't really hack and slash like in the old Battlefront 2. In the single-player modes, my favorite heroes to play as were probably Rey, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, and Lando. And there's also starfighters and hero starfighters you can pilot in certain game modes. Honestly, I didn't really care too much for these. I mean, yeah, it was cool in the campaign and all that, but really, overall, I just wasn't big into dogfighting and all that. Not even in the old games, honestly. Before I discuss the multiplayer, I'll go over the modes you can play on single-player. So there's instant action, which is very similar, if not identical, to the mode of the same name that was in the old Battlefront games. You pick a planet or map, a game mode, and a side to play on, and you just get and it plays like the old Conquest mode. There's a mode for that. It's just like old Conquest, and for most part it's pretty fun. And besides that, you also have the arcade mode, which you can play co-op or solo. It's the only way you can play co-op in this game at all, split screen. Anyway, the arcade pits you in various battle scenarios, featuring locations and moments from the movies, and you're restricted to certain classes or characters whilst completing the objective, which is usually just to kill everyone. I had a lot of fun with this mode despite its simplicity, and it's definitely the best way to start playing the game, and just learning how all the characters and abilities work and all that jazz. Right, now to the multiplayer, or the little I played of it. I said it before, I'll say it again, I'm never big on multiplayer-based games or anything of that sort. Hell, I hardly had any time put into the first EA Battlefront at the end of the day, due to how multiplayer-focused it was. So naturally, I didn't spend much time on the multiplayer in this game either. Now that being said, I gotta give credit where credit is due, it's fairly well made, and compared to how I heard it described at launch, it's definitely improved quite a bit. The methods of unlocking new classes, vehicles, and heroes/villains through credits that you earn in the game, like in the match, is very reminiscent of the old Battlefront II, and it's a much better system than that first EA Battlefront with its shitty, no good, awful, very bad, awful, whatever, I already said that word, power-up drops. Seriously, the power-ups just fuck that shit into the ground, dude. I only really tried 2 multiplayer modes, Galactic Assault and Capital Supremacy. Now, I vastly prefer Galactic Assault. In this mode, you play in large-scale objective-based battles, which usually revolve around one side defending stuff, the other side assaulting stuff, etc., etc. That's kind of how it went the whole time. The real chaos of the battles here, you have all these vehicles roaming around, flying above you, all these characters and heroes, villains just duking it out. It really brought me into the Star Wars feeling, and it just was, smiled on my face. I just couldn't help but have fun while I was playing these modes. Now, of course, sometimes I felt that certain maps favored a certain side. Sometimes it was kind of obvious to see this, but really that just kind of adds to the fun and hectic nature of it all. Capital Supremacy. I really wanted to like it, but I just couldn't. It's a 2-part game basically. The first part, straight up conquest mode. You have to hold the majority of the command posts on the map until your team's meter reaches 100%. Once it does, you board up on dropships and head to the enemy's capital ship. In this part, it plays a lot like Galactic Assault with its objectives. You have to push the enemy back and secure objectives and destroy stuff, and just complete all the objectives, you'll emerge victorious. If you fail to do this, then you get captured on the ship, and you get sent back to the ground, the conquest part restarts. As you can imagine, this shit could go on forever, and I just couldn't bring myself to finish any of the games. I'm really not a fan of long-ass multiplayer matches like this, and this mode is basically that. Unfortunately, after this, my experience with other multiplayer modes is null and void, and I don't know if I'll come back to the game to try out the others. I'd probably enjoy multiplayer more. I would especially enjoy Capital Supremacy more if I had a squad of friends to queue up with. But that being said, from the multiplayer perspective, I just can't really see a game mode. Maybe Galactic Assault, that's a bit of a stretch, something that I can enjoy playing by myself on my own time. I just don't see it happening. God, fuck. That was a lot of gameplay stuff. Okay, now graphics. Not much to say here. It's basically just like the first EA Battlefront. The game looks really good and spares no details to really immerse you in the Star Wars universe. Like, when you just feel like you're there on the planet. It's so cool. The game is just really pleasant to look at. I'm really impressed with the variety of visuals considering the different planets they had. Now, sound-wise, I basically can say the exact same stuff. Really puts you in the Star Wars mood. You have all these cool blaster sounds, explosions, vehicles, characters shouting stuff. Oh, it's just so cool. The classic Star Wars soundtracks, I could go on and on and on about all this stuff. But to keep it simple, I can safely say that the game's strongest aspects are definitely the visual and sound design. And that's basically it for Battlefront 2. I definitely don't hate this game. Compared to EA's first attempt at this franchise reboot, it's quite remarkable how much of an improvement this one was. The inclusion of single-player content finally, including a full-blown campaign, plus the addressing of the issues that plagued the first game's gameplay and multiplayer experiences, these were definitely the biggest improvements. And although this game had a very nasty, rough launch that received loads of totally valid criticism, it's pretty impressive that the devs persevered and pulled through and shaped the game into what it is now. Overall, I'd say if you're a Star Wars fan and enjoy shooters, you'll probably like this game a fair bit. And that's all I really have to say. Sorry if I sounded really tired. I'm recording this at 2 a.m. Fuck if I know why. Well, anyway. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. Very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time on Beating the Backlog. So, I usually do a cover at the end of these, but I might not do one for this episode because there's really no original soundtrack here. Like, if you want to see me do a Star Wars cover, I mean, cool. I'm sure there's, like, literally thousands of those on YouTube at this point. And I don't feel like risking it with Disney, you know? Sorry, guys.